Good morning and happy Wednesday, everyone. How exciting it is for Wednesday. Wednesday is usually people like perceive it as hump day. Like, what do you have to hump over today? I love for you to drop into the comment. Like, what's been going on? I know a lot of kids are going back to school. So are your kids going back to school, and is this the time to actually relax and enjoying your alone time? I know summer can be quite exciting, but it's also exhausting, right? If you think about all the places that you have to take your kids to, uh, oh my gosh, it's running around like crazy. Luckily I don't have any of that. So, welcome to the Live Coffee Talk Show. If this is the first time you're watching this, I'm Michelle Quay. I am a visibility coach and storytelling expert. I love storytelling. So, true story I like to share with you before we jump into the show today about imposter syndrome. So, yesterday I had to put in a couple of hours at my other job as a clinical pharmacist. And as on my way coming home, there was a guy six feet tall opening the door for me, and it was one of the top surgeon, okay, liver transplant, we're talking about liver donor transplant, opening the door for me. And there I was right in front of him. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what an honorable thing to have. These pair of hands are the going to save life, 400 life that he has saved. And here I am. He's opening the door for me. How powerful I feel, right? So if this is the first time you're joining, welcome. You're watching the Live Coffee Talk Show, where I bring on inspiring guests to talk about business and mindset that will help you courageously and confidently plow through all the obstacles so that you can reach the mountaintop. Today I'm excited because I have an amazing guest and who's also an imposter syndrome expert, Shayna. Shayna Bergman. She is passionate, result-oriented coach who empowers and motivates individuals to unlock their full potential. She has proven track record of helping people to achieve deeper meaning and fulfillment in their professional and personal lives through authentic leadership and clarity and purpose. With the focus of parents in executive and leadership position, Shayna challenged her clients to look deeply into themselves by reflecting their values, dreams, limiting belief, and inner critic. Ding, 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 ding. That's one of my favorites. So if you're watching this show, say taco, because we're going to talk about this more in depth. Knowing her, she's known for her perspective, insights, and ability to speak the truth to leaders at all levels. Shayna's most successful clients are those who are dedicated to evolve their best selves and fostering that growth in others. So, without further ado, please join me with a warm welcome our imposter syndrome expert who's going to share with us how we actually get over the hump day on Wednesday. All right, Shayna.
Hello.
I'm like so excited because this is a topic that something that we were talking about earlier. It was a topic that I was experiencing with this imposter syndrome. Back then I didn't know that it was the imposter syndrome. I kept thinking, oh, it's just my voice. And I remember it was so bad that everything I did, I would plot out a story, like a storyline ahead of time. And it was mostly negative, not so inspiring. So tell us, how did you get into coaching?
So it's sort of a funny story, Michelle, but when I was 3 years old, I used to sit in the back of my parents' station wagon and we would be taking road trips together. And while most kids were listening to children's music, I was listening to Tony Robbins because that's what my parents were listening to. So here I am, a 3-year-old, listening to The Power Within and tapping into your potential and unleashing the beast. And so it started there. And it's interesting because my parents had a small business that they were growing, a dental practice, in fact. And I was soaking all this stuff in, not knowing it at the time, but really through my career, really kind of wanted to tap into how it was that people worked best, what really motivated them, what were the stories that they were telling themselves,
Mhm.
where they couldn't get out of their own way. And I just found that concept fascinating. So I've been on this pursuit in my life of trying to really help people live their best lives, both at work and once I became a parent, as a parent as well. And so while my career started in the world of human resources, it evolved into executive and leadership coaching because I really knew that while HR was a passion of mine, I couldn't really work with people the way that I wanted to. And so I moved into this space so that I could impact people in a much greater way.
I love the fact that you started to listen to Tony Robbins when you were 3. Most of us probably never heard of Tony Robbins because
Yeah.
back then he wasn't that big of like a person, right?
That's right. He was like this very underground, this like young guy, this young strappy guy, just talking to small audiences on tape, on cassette tape. So that's how I used to hear him, on cassette tape.
Oh my gosh. This is like gold. So I know Tony Robbins, they're launching something like big, a master class. So I hope that he's listening because we actually have a loyal fan started to listen to Tony Robbins at 3.
It's true.
So tell us about the imposter syndrome. Like, what is it? A lot
Yeah.
of people have this beliefs and misunderstanding of what imposter syndrome is. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
I'd love to. And I think it's a very buzzy word. So I think people use all different terms to describe what it is. But it's that feeling of, I don't belong in this room. I don't belong at this board table. It could be something like, I'm just lucky that I got in this position. Or it could be something like, I was kind of the last choice. It could sound something like, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be here. Some people see it in terms of wanting to be a perfectionist. And sometimes that can be imposter syndrome because you don't feel like you're enough. It could be just that overall feeling of I don't belong. And I think that's really where people start to hear that loud inner critic and they start to listen to it. And that's where imposter syndrome starts to show its head.
Hmm. I'm like I feel like I had check all the boxes. So those of you who are joining us live, let us know, if give me a 1 if that's who what you had before. You don't feel that you belong in the room. Or 2, you knocked it out, you have no issue imposter syndrome whatsoever. And Terry said, always love seeing you. Always love seeing Terry too. Terry is amazing. She's also a ICF certified coach. Love her. So imposter syndrome, and there's that sense of not being in the room. How did it show up for you in the HR world?
Yeah, it's such a good question, Michelle. So for me, initially, I didn't have it because I think I gave myself grace and space that I was learning and growing. But as I got bigger in the roles that I was taking on and the roles were becoming more visible and more important, I started saying to myself, like, I'm really lucky to be sitting in this seat. Or I'd be sitting in a table full of leaders and say, like, well, I'm not a leader like them, even though I'm in the same room, right? Or it could be something like, really that perfectionism is one that I have and continue to grapple with, which is that sort of like, is this going to be good enough? And so agonizing over certain things, getting in your own way, getting in your own head, chewing on something so much where you lose the passion in it, when really, like, I deserve to be in every room I was in, right? I interviewed my way into certain spaces, I performed my way into certain spaces, but nonetheless, I'm human and we all are. And so for me, it was sort of, yeah, sitting in those rooms and saying, like, I don't know, do I really belong here?
Mhm. How much of that do you think is contributed by ourselves and versus contributing by other? Because I know in the corporate world, right, there's a lot of that male dominant feeling or energy that I value my opinion, and you, thank you so much for raising your voice, but okay, they kind of just brush you off. How much
Mhm.
of that is being contributed by the external versus something that's coming from us?
So I think it's both. I think it starts with us. I think it starts with the internal voices we have in our head. And I think we tend to look externally for validation. And it validates either way. So if we look externally and we see that somebody is maybe giving us a face, or maybe they say, like, I don't agree with what you said, I think that then validates the inner critic that we hear. And that inner critic then gets noisier. But on the flip side, maybe if I'm in the room and I'm thinking, like, I don't know, do I belong here? And somebody says, oh, that was really powerful what you just said. Then I'm like, oh yeah, great. Like then I feel the confidence, right? And so I think there's a lot of work that has to be done to not let that impact you. Not to say that you shouldn't be open to feedback and sort of reading the room, but I think it's a balance of knowing that you belong in the room regardless, but that there's also this component of knowing I am enough. And what I say isn't going to resonate with everybody, and that is okay.
Mhm. I think a lot of people struggle to have that voice at a ballroom, at the table, because they have that inner voice. And so at what point do they actually recognize the fact that this is coming from me and I need to work on it?
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest piece. I think the awareness piece is the roughest because I think it's very human to say, like, well, I don't have that. Like, I really don't belong in the room, right? We convince ourselves of these stories that we think are true. Like, I really don't belong in the room, or like, I just got this position because nobody else was available for it, you know? And so I think it's really starting to sort of step back and ask yourself the question of, how do I really feel when I'm in a space like this where I'm a little uncomfortable? Or what are the stories I'm telling myself about whether or not I belong here? And do I think I'm good enough? Do I think I'm enough? Am I smart enough? Am I bringing enough powerful statements? And am I, or I think it's the flip side of, I feel obligated to speak because I'm here,
Mhm.
even though I maybe don't have something to contribute, but I feel like I have to. So I think it's sort of this push pull that we get into. And I think it's having the awareness of, like, how am I showing up in these spaces? And when it's from a place of imposter syndrome, we're not showing up as our best selves. And that's the ironic part, is we think that, like, oh, it's better if I just sit quiet and not say anything. No, you are in the room for a reason. You've got to speak up. That's what's going to help you step into your power.
I love everything that you just shared. It makes me feel powerful, like sitting in a boardroom, in a meeting room, and I have something to say. And I think the hesitation has always been that I don't want to be the target. I don't want to be the person raising the conflict. And so a lot of time, you can even behind the door in the break room, there are people talking about how challenging the workplace would be, but no one will actually raise a voice. Not a damn one.
Mhm, absolutely.
And you're thinking, like, why didn't you say something at the meeting? And there's always that feeling of, I don't want to stir the pot. I don't want to be the one, right, bringing up issue. So, like, right now, there's a lot of people going through that. First, we called it the great resignation, but
Mhm,
then now a lot of company are actually downsizing. They're,
mhm.
they're letting go a lot of people. So, how do we balance between the two, having that recognition that I have the imposter syndrome versus when is it appropriate time to actually step out of our comfort zone and actually have a voice?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great point, Michelle. I think it's this, and you're right, there's this great resignation going on. And so I think people are sort of in between, kind of, do I say something? Do I not say something? What do I do? And from my perspective, I feel like you never want to look back and say, I should have. You don't want to look back with regrets. And so I feel like it's really important to speak your voice. You can't control what's going to happen, right? We only have so much within our control. I can't control whether or not I'm going to get let go or not. I have no control over that. And sometimes those things happen to the best of the best, and it's not necessarily a reflection on who they are. And so my guidance to somebody would always be, you've got to be who you are, stand in your power, bring your intelligence, bring your wit, bring your charisma, bring everything that you've got within you to the table. Because what happens after that is something you have no control over, but you don't want to look back and say, I should have. Because what happens is somebody else is going to say that great idea that's in your head, right? Or you're going to say something that maybe was hard for people to hear, and then in time, maybe let it marinate a little bit, and then it becomes the next best thing that your company does. So don't be that person that's so quiet that somebody else takes over what it is that you had in your own brain.
I love that. I know this is actually happening recently, like real scenario. We had some conflict at my other job, my healthcare job, and then it was time for people to start having like voice. What don't you like about this whole thing? This new changes, but nobody made a sound. It was like
Mhm.
that silence, and so of course, me stepping in, being all powerful and being all like all to it. I say something and then I'm like, oh shoot, oh crap. Am I gonna get fired for this? Am I gonna get called into the principal's office again?
Yes. Yes. And I think that happens. I think we get intimidated, especially when nobody's speaking. Like, we don't want to be the first one to say something. So I think
Yeah.
that's a totally normal thing. But you did it. And now you can say, like, I let it out there. I said it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, so how do I cure this? Because one of the topic that we have today is how do we cure the imposter syndrome? And you have like top secret 5 way, probably not your secret, your way
Yes.
of curing that imposter syndrome. So what are
Yes.
the 5 ways?
Okay. So the first one is know that you are normal. You are normal. You are not alone. This is a very, very normal thing that most people have. And it's funny, like I joke, like your doctor has imposter syndrome. Your teachers have imposter syndrome. Your parents have imposter syndrome. Judges have imposter syndrome. The president has imposter syndrome. Everybody has it in some form or another. And sometimes it's noisier than others. And sometimes it's a little quieter, but everybody has it. So I think it's really important to know you are normal and you're not alone. So that's the first one.
I love that.
Yes.
Even Joe Biden has has
Joe
imposter
Biden has
syndrome.
imposter syndrome. Exactly. Exactly. So the second one is to reframe your perspective. So rather than saying, I have this imposter syndrome and like, woe is me, and this is terrible, and I'm just never going to be enough, use it as your superpower. And what do I mean by that? When you use it as your superpower, it allows you to fight harder. You really, really want to be in that position. You really, really want to be heard. You know that you're there for a particular reason. Dig into that and let it fuel how it is that you show up. Let it be that superpower that really charges you up before you go into a situation where you feel like you're not enough. And rather than having that voice say, I'm not enough, pick a different saying for that voice. Let that voice tell you, I deserve to be in this room. I earned this role. I earned this position. And then see when you start to believe that voice, the power that you have. And I know it's not like a switch just turns on and off, but just try it on. Try it on for a moment to say, like, I deserve to be here and walk in with that kind of attitude. Let them hear what you've got and then see what happens. So
I
that's number
love
two.
I love it. What's your superpower, Shayna?
My superpower is connecting deeply with people. That's what I love to do. It's a very natural thing for me. It's fun. And so, yeah, that's my superpower.
I love it. I remember the first time we met about the just getting on the show,
Yeah.
and it was like the moment that you open the Zoom, you know immediately like who you want to invite because when you're a podcast host, you want to look for individual who has that flow of energy, who can connect with you, and Shayna, like without a doubt, the moment I opened it, it was like, okay, you're in.
Thank you. Well, you make it easy, Michelle. You make it fun and easy. So,
No, I think like you said, it's a natural connector who just vibe together, and I think
absolutely.
that's very important in attracting the people into our space. So I love how that's a superpower.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, what's tip number
Okay.
3?
All right. Number three is remember your previous successes. So I think we tend to forget and celebrate all of the things that we've done that have got us where we are today. And so it's really remembering, like, yeah, I did do some really cool projects. I did lead some pretty cool meetings. I have done these amazing things with my team. And remember that you are not there by accident. It wasn't like somebody's hand was forced to hire you. It's not like somebody made it so that you had to be in this particular role because there was nobody else available. And so I think it's sometimes taking a step back and saying, like, wait a minute, I did earn this. This is something that I deserved. I deserve to be here. So that's number 3.
Love it, love it. One of the funny thing is I have a doctor's degree, and so technically I'm not a medical doctor, but still I am a doctor of pharmacy. So the proper way to address me in the healthcare field is actually to call me Dr. Quay. And it took me a long, long time to actually to feel connected to the term Dr. Quay. And I remember the first time people call me, refer me as Dr. Quay, I was like, wait, who are you talking to?
I think that's normal. I think that's normal because it's a big title, right? That's a big thing. And you worked really hard to get there, but we forget that.
I wasn't connected to it. I was like, I wasn't taking the ownership of this is how much school I had to go through, suck up every fall semester to actually go to my class.
Yes, that's right. And I think that word is important, ownership. I think that's it. Like you do have ownership over everything that you did, all of your successes, all of your failures. They got you to being Dr. Quay.
Yeah, I earned it.
You did earn it. You earned it.
All
Exactly.
right, tip number 4.
Okay, tip number 4, Dr. Quay, is find your champions. So when I say find your champions, I mean find people that are going to pound the table for you, who believe in you and who are going to push you. So I'll give you an example that's personal. I had an opportunity in my corporate life to take a role that felt very big for me. And I felt like I wasn't ready, typical imposter syndrome. Why me? Like, it shouldn't be me. They clearly had nobody else to look at, right? And I had have a mentor who, from it's been now over almost 15 years of our relationship, has been the one to say to me, just say yes. Say yes, because these opportunities don't come along. Say yes, take it. And with this particular opportunity, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. And she said to me, say yes, you'll figure it out because you're smart. And so that's an example of a table pounder, somebody where they kind of had to like hold up a mirror and say, you've got this. I believe in you. You can do this. And I have throughout my career found those people. Some are professional, some are personal, but they're the ones who are going to push me and tell me I can do it. And not that I always need that external validation, but sometimes it helps. Sometimes you need somebody to say, like, get out of your own way. Go take that big thing. Like, you've got it. So find your champions is number 4.
I love
Yeah,
it. You know, I'm a pusher. I just push people off the cliff while holding their hand, but I will push them off the cliff.
that's right. That's what we do. Sometimes people need that. They need that push and they need to feel that there is a net to catch them. And there always is a net. There's always some kind of net.
Yeah, when people are kind of like in the tunnel vision, they're going in circle, and this is why we as coach it works so well because we're like kind of bystander or the third person or observer who's just standing on the outside and looking at what's going on within the organization, within your leadership, within your on your table, on your meeting table. Like we're the one who's observing all that, and you're the one who's going to say, "Well, have you thought about this?"
Yes, that's exactly right. It's like I always say, it's like they see all these doors closed in front of them, and we say, "Here's a window. Did you know that that's over here?" So, yeah, exactly.
I love that analogy.
Yes.
All right, tip number 5.
All right, tip number 5 is accept the compliment. So how many times does somebody say to you, like, "That was a really great presentation," and you're like, "No, no, no, I didn't do very well. I messed up in this part." No, all you have to do is say thank you. Own it. I keep saying stand in your power, like own that you deserved everything that you've gotten. Just say thank you. It can be so powerful because when you do that, it's even validating to yourself of, yes, this is true. I did do a good job with that presentation. I did handle that meeting really well. I did do a good job juggling the fact that my kids were sick and I was present with them as a mom during that time, even though I let other things slide and the house is messy and I burned the hot dogs, right? Whatever it is, just say thank you and know that whatever you've done was enough. And so I think that's a really, really big one. Just accept the compliment.
Mm, I love that. I think a lot of people struggle with receiving compliment because they don't know what to do with it.
Yes, that's
So
right.
so what are some of the tips? Like how would you when you're working with client and the client comes to you and Shayna, I don't know how to take compliment. It makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that that's normal because I think a lot of us grew up wanting to be very humble and feeling like somebody else is better than we are. We are our own worst critic, right? Look at all the mistakes that we've made. Somebody might see something nice and shiny on the outside, but we're dealing with all this other junk that we've got going on the inside. So it's not easy. So I'm not going to say again, it's not like you flip a switch. And this is why coaching takes time, right? It's not something that's quick. But I would say start to just try it on. Like it's a little experiment. Next time somebody says like, "Hey, great jacket," just say, "Thanks so much," and see what happens. Let it just sit in the air. Nothing bad is going to come from that, right? Or if somebody says like, "Hey, you led that meeting really well. Like that was really powerful what you said." Just say thank you and see what happens. And also, you're role modeling for people that are looking at you how to stand in what it is that you're doing. And it doesn't mean you're arrogant, right? It's not saying be arrogant. It's not saying be full of yourself. But when somebody tells you something, assume that it's coming from the right place. And usually it is, and it's a very well-intentioned comment, and just say thank you.
Hmm. Thank you. Today we're gonna run off and say thank you to
Yes,
everybody.
exactly. Exactly. And people like to be thanked, right? Like they don't want to be told, "Well, what you said is totally not true because I messed up in all these places." That doesn't make somebody feel good either. So just
Mm.
say thank you.
Yeah. I recently heard a conversation where people talk about when someone wants to help you, let them. Because a lot of time, when people want to say compliment you, you gotta let them because it's their way, it's your way of giving and allowing that person to do what they were meant to do.
I love that, and I think it is giving. I think we think of it as receiving, and really it's give and take. They're giving something to us, we're giving something right back.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I describe it as a wall. We all walking around with this wall putting in front of us, and then we're blocking and stopping people from giving to us,
Mm,
thinking that, oh, I wanted to give everything. But yeah, what about the other person? You got to get that person an opportunity to give.
that's right. There's joy in that.
What are some of the ways that you're giving your clients? Like, how do you work with them?
Yes. So with everybody that I meet with, everybody gets a complimentary session off the bat to start with me. So they get to sort of see how I work, see what I do, feel if it's for them or not for them, see if we're a fit. But then beyond that, my clients know they're going to get like little texts from me on occasion. They're going to get little articles, things that I've read. They're going to get a very present person in front of them. I think that, a lot of people don't have the time and don't think that they deserve the time to invest in themselves. And so when my clients are with me, they get time where they get to really think deeply about what it is that they want and to push through those barriers that they're putting up in their way. And that's something where I'm holding space for them to be able to do that. And so I want them to always feel like when they're with me, they're getting a very present person. But also with that, I'm constantly working for my clients. Like I want them to know I'm working before our session, I'm working after, trying to sort of work with them, even when they don't see me, to sort of help them find their power that maybe they haven't yet found. So I think that's a really, really big piece of it. But yeah, I mean, for me, like giving is it's very natural. Like I'm a mother. And so that's kind of something that comes with the territory a little bit, is sometimes putting ourselves last in many ways because we're constantly giving. But I've also learned through time that saying you can't pour from an empty cup is very true. And so I sort of try to find ways where I'm giving to myself too, so that I can give to everybody else in a much more powerful way.
Like the way that you're describing this, it makes me wonder what your personality type is, because it sounds like there's a lot of connector, there's a lot of caring, there's a lot of loving for your clients, and I know there's certain so there's this 12 types of archetype, and each one of us belong to one. And
Yeah.
like what's coming up for me is you're this romantic type who's all about connecting, making connection and loving. And I think that's why we so vibe so well together.
I think you're right, and you nailed it. I am a connector, and I'm also an eternal optimist. So my team, when I was in the corporate world, always called me Susie Sunshine. But that works for me because, like, when
Yeah.
somebody feels like they're on their last leg and they just can't anymore, I'm like, no, no, no. There is all this amazing power within you. I'm going to help you pull it out because I know it's there and I know you can do it. So there's a
Yeah.
benefit to that too.
And just the fact that you're sending text message to your clients, like to empower them, that to me, it's just, oh, I wish I have a coach like this.
It's nice, especially when I know they're going to have a big meeting where they've got something going on. I want them to know, like, I got you. I'm here. I'm thinking of you. You've got this.
Yeah, yeah. Paula says, you made an impact when I met you and still to this day.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Paula. Hi, Paula.
So you definitely, your vibe, your energy is definitely attracting people to come to your space. So
Thank you.
yeah, that's your superpower.
Thank you. Thank you. And see, thank you.
What are some of the things that's happening right now in your life? Like what do you have going on in your coaching business?
Yes. So right now I am growing very quickly. So it's a variety of one-on-one coaching conversations and then also creating powerful workshops for various clients, whether it's corporate, nonprofit, entrepreneurship. Those are spaces I've played in. And so for me, it's really kind of what can I deliver that's going to be powerful and meaningful to people and growing that. I am thinking about moving into sort of a group coaching space, in the maybe nearish future, because I recognize that people want to be able to have access to a coach, and sometimes they don't do that necessarily because it can sometimes be cost prohibitive. And for me, there's only so many hours in the day, so it allows me to have a chance to work with many people at one time. So that's something that I'm thinking about as well. And then I blog very regularly, so I love to write. I love to put out my thoughts. I love to engage with people that way. And so I welcome people anytime they see me post something on social or they see me blog, like, you're not bothering me to reach out and talk about it. I love that. I love engaging with people. So I would just tell, like, I'm a connector, right? So feel free to reach out. It comes from a very genuine place that I like to be and work with people. That's my job, right? So I love when people reach out, even if it's just to say hi or just to connect. I love it.
I love it. And hopefully people are taking advantage of that complimentary, because if you're a viewer, if you're watching this show live or replay, yeah, take that advantage of just talking to Shayna. You would not regret connecting with her.
Thank you.
Because I was really happy that we connected, and that first call, like, I can totally tell that, oh, I'm going to get so much love from her.
Likewise, Michelle. Likewise. It goes both ways.
Where can we find you on social media and maybe your website?
Yes. So you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Shayna. There you go. Shayna Preluck Bergman. You can also find me on Facebook and Insta, which is at Shayna Bergman Coaching. And then my website is shaynabergman.com. And so please come check it out. Come find me. Come follow me. Come engage with me. I'd love to say hi.
And just have a conversation with her. Like, how can anyone say no to Shayna? Like, they have to come through me first, right? Yeah. We need to talk. Like, what do you not love about Shayna? Right?
Thank you, Michelle, thank you.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so we I know it's a little over, but I love how, like I said, I told you earlier that we could have this conversation for the next 2 hours, but I want to be respectful of your time. I do have some rapid firing questions so that my listeners will get to know you a little more. All right, ready?
Ready.
Remember, they're firing questions, okay? So don't don't spend too much time thinking about it.
Okay.
All right. If your life was a story, what would it be titled?
Ooh, Oh, you said not to think about it. I can't help it.
Not to think about it.
I would say rose-colored glasses.
Oh, see, definitely romantic type.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. What one thing is the cutest?
The cutest?
Yeah. What
Oh,
one
my
thing is
kids.
just
My kids, like, oh, so cute. I know people say that, but like mine are really cute.
No, they are the cutest, right? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's right.
What one thing is the ugliest that you have
The
ever seen?
ugliest? Honestly, to me, it's like mean people. I don't care how attractive you are. If you're mean, you're ugly.
That's true. I love that.
Yeah.
If you were to give someone a book to read, what would it be?
Yes, read Brave Not Perfect by Reshma Saujani, who founded Girls Who Code. It is a life-changing book for me. I would tell anybody, read Brave Not Perfect.
Ooh, I love how it ties into that theme.
Yes.
One last question, and this one came from a quote from a book that I really love, The Little Prince.
I love the book.
And in The Little Prince, there's a quote. It says, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eyes." What do you believe is essential but invisible to the eyes?
Yep, I love that question. I'm a Francophile and I studied Little Prince, so I love that you asked me this. So to me, what is invisible is people's power. It's something you can't see, and sometimes you're not getting somebody on their best day, but everybody has it within them, even if you can't always see it. But I believe, because I do work from my heart a lot of the time, I know it's there. I know everybody has it, and I'm here to tap it with them.
There's your superpower.
There you go.
I love that. Thank you so much, Shayna. Any last word for our listeners and viewers?
No, just thank you. Thank you guys all for watching and listening. Michelle, thanks for having me on. This was a total blast.
I know. I gotta invite you back, and so that we can have a longer segment just for us to have a chat.
Absolutely.
Yay! All right, so I'm gonna put you to the backstage, and then I will close the show. If you want to stay on a little bit, I'll talk to you in a minute.
Sounds good.
Just to recap.
All right.
All right. Bye, Shayna.
Bye.
All right, ladies, and hopefully you learned the 5 ways of how you can cure your imposter syndrome. I forgot to mention that you can actually grab a copy of Shayna's freebie from her website, The 5 Ways to Cure Your Imposter Syndrome brochure, where she summarizes all the 5 ways of how you can cure it. on her website. So again, that website is here. Be sure to check her out, follow her. She's a natural connector and you're going to love her. And thank you so much for watching this show and staying out with me. And today, if you can go ahead and scroll down to the comment and drop me one thing that you will do today to cure your imposter syndrome, what would that be? All right. Drop it into the comment. Let me know what is that one thing that you're planning to do today that will cure your imposter syndrome. And I will see you again next week.